walls. We are the one force which brings power to the powerful, whether it be kingdom, aristocracy, communism, or capitalism. And because they are indebted to us, and they are tired of fighting, we will introduce a new world order to control all finances and national debts. Mankind will have to rewrite history when it examines who financed the Napoleonic Wars, Lenin's Communist Revolution, and all political parties of the First World War. Towards the end of the 18th century in Europe, especially in Germany, a new movement was founded which was interested in deeply spiritual matters. The origin of mankind and all the secrets of Atlantis were of particular interest. These spiritual groups were inspired mediumistically by invisible masters who taught European scientists visiting India and Tibet. The foundations for these secret esoteric teachings were the secret writings of Petrova Blavatsky. At the beginning of the 19th century, various esoteric groups, such as the anthroposophists of Rudolf Steiner, were directly issued from these teachings. They mentioned the coming of a new age, which would be preceded by a great battle between good and evil. The teachings by the invisible masters of Shambhala were mixed by the esoteric followers of the time with other religions such as Hinduism, Buddhism, and John's secret Christian prophecies. Many newly founded occult sects discovered that there were esoteric lodges before them, such as the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, and the Illuminati, who were pulling the strings of world politics. The new occultists of the turn of the century were waiting for the new golden age to arrive, and like various sects today, believed themselves to be the chosen ones. They would inherit eternal life and the 1,000 years empire after the apocalypse and the return of Christ. At a time of turmoil, many groups wished for one enlightened leader.
Shortly before his death in 1923, Dietrich Eckart is supposed to have said, "Follow Hitler, Hitler will dance. I have composed the music to his dance. I have given him the opportunity to get in touch with them. Do not accuse me. I will have had more influence on history than anybody else." To get in touch with them, what did he mean? In essence, and theoretically, it meant that Dietrich Eckart gave Hitler the possibility to contact the powers of Agati. He convinced him that he had to complete the work of Agati. It meant the demise of Shambhala represented in the international Freemasonry.
In 1912, von Sempotendorf founded the Germanic Order in Bad Aibling, out of which emerged various occult ideas, which would later trigger the Great Tragedy. They saw in the old Freemason and capitalistic lodges the personification of the evil enemy. In 1918, after the German defeat of the First World War, this Germanic Order in Munich merged with many other groups into the Teil Society. They also invited recently discharged officers to attend their meetings. At the meetings, they discovered that the financial lodges of the Zionists had merely used them on the battlefields. One can only guess that they saw the personified Satan in both the Freemason and the capitalistic lodges who had financed the war. Thus, the Second World War was already pre-programmed. For many years, people had worked on the illusion of ridding the world of a Satan and on the triumph over evil in a last battle, making way for the 1,000-year empire and the return of Christ.
The Teil Society naturally had a large number of prominent members in its ranks, also people who later became famous in National Socialism. Of course, Rudolf Hess is particularly well known to have been essentially working in the Fighter Alliance in the Teil Society. Hans Frank, later Minister for Justice in Bavaria and Minister without a portfolio in the Third Reich, was also one of them. Alfred Rosenberg, the so-called chief ideologist of the Nazi NSDAP, who later wrote The Myth of the 20th Century, was also a member of the Thule Society. We must not forget one man who did not live to see the Third Reich, but who had a striking and important influence on Hitler, the writer and poet Dietrich Eckart. Dietrich Eckart essentially became famous for his revised version of Peer Gynt, which was then performed. He was also known as a poet, author of some significant fighter songs of the Nazi NSDAP. This man strongly influenced Hitler. He clarified and gave direction to the confused ideas which Hitler already had in Vienna. Hitler and Eckart came together and often discussed different political questions. Eckart managed to direct Hitler's antagonistic opinions of Marxism and capitalism into a unified anti-Semitic view. Most importantly, Eckart provided Hitler with important connections within the society. He helped him to become courteous, well-mannered, and introduced him to the refined people who were able to help him financially.
Ihn bei den feineren Leuten eingeführt hat, ebenfalls Finanzen beigesteuert hat. Und Eckart war ein Mann, der
Eckart was obviously not a member of the Thule Society, but was in close contact with the leading figures of the society. One must imagine all this like a spectrum, in which individual association memberships were not so important, but where the people from the different organizations and parties repeatedly met, where there was overlapping in the membership, but where in a particular period, that is specifically in Munich at the beginning of 1919, crystallization centers increasingly emerged. One of them was definitely the Thule Society, and all the important people who met at the time essentially fought against Marxism, met at the Thule Society or in its sphere of influence. Out of the Thule Society emerged the idea, as Sebottendorf, the founder of the society, declared, that support for the national cause should also come from the working class, and not only from the middle classes and bourgeois circles. These ideas had also spread to others, as for example the engineer Paul Tafel, also a member of the Germanic Order. Sebottendorf appointed one of his associates, the sports journalist Karl Hara, to create a political working circle within the Thule Society. Hara did so, and happened to meet Alfred Drexler, with whom he worked closely. In January 1919, Hara and Drexler founded the German Workers' Party, which had its origin in Drexler's Free Workers' Community for Peace. One can say that the original building of the Nazi NSDAP was laid by the Thule Society. Hara was a Thule brother. Drexler was also moving in these circles. And the initial people of the DAP all came from the Thule Society circles.
Weil Hara war ein Thule-Bruder, Drexler verkehrte auch in dem Umfeld und die ersten Leute, die in der DAP Einfluss hatten, waren aus dem Umfeld der Thule-Gesellschaft.
The Thule organization secretly made great plans to release mankind from the financial conspiracy. To them, the Illuminati, Freemasons, and Zionistic financial connections represented a world dictatorship which had to be fought and defeated. However, it would still take a while until they found a political candidate who would represent them in power.